Namaste. This is David Hawthorne at astroview.com. Today is the 8th of July 2019. The following is a very brief case study using systems approach to Vedic astrology. So this is for students and practitioners. Now just today I heard from one of my dear friends who happens to be an Indian astrologer, a Jyotishi, and he mentioned that a mutual friend of ours was over in India visiting, apparently trying to retrieve some money that he had either invested or loaned somebody, quite a bit of money apparently. But after taking a taxi ride someplace, he has disappeared. So as it turned out, I found that person's chart in my case studies from years ago, my client file. So I wanted to show students how to take a look in case somebody has a question like this about somebody who's missing. Now in this case, the fifth sign of the zodiac was ascending, which is Leo rising, Simha Lagna, ruled by the royal sun. Now, under systems approach, we say there are 6 planets that will never cause harm for Leo. These include Sun, ruling the chart, Mars, ruling the 9th house of good fortune and Dharma, Guru. Mercury will never cause harm. It rules the 2nd house of wealth and status, family life. Jupiter will never cause harm. It rules the 5th house of mind and investments and education and children. Venus will never cause harm. It rules the 3rd house of independence and self-initiatives. And Saturn will never cause harm. It rules the 7th house. And we do not, under systems approach, we do not treat the 2nd and 7th houses as Maraka houses. So Saturn will never cause harm, will never cause the dreaded Sati Sati. But if any of these 6 planets are weak on some account, they need to be strengthened to add protective covering. And you know we strengthen the favorable planets with color therapy, gemstone therapy, and the mystical pendant known as a kavach or kavacham. Now nobody should strengthen Rahu and Ketu, the north and south nodes of the moon. They're mathematical ecliptic points. They do cause the eclipse of the sun and the moon every year since the beginning of time. So if they can bring darkness to the royal luminary sun and moon, then they can bring darkness into our lives, some unexpected eclipse. So they need to be managed. We also say under systems approach that if the 6th house, the 8th house, or 12th house contains a Mool Trikona sign, then the ruler of that house becomes a functional malefic planet for that ascendant, that rising sign only. All the other planets are functional benefic planets. So in the case of Leo, there is no Mool Trikona sign in the 6th or the 8th, but the 12th house contains the Mool Trikona sign for moon. So Chandra becomes the most malefic planet for Leo. Now the important thing is not so much whether a planet is a benefic or malefic, but rather how is it operating in the chart. A benefic planet can be absolutely benign, giving no positive results, and a malefic planet can be absolutely benign, giving no adverse effects. So we need to strengthen the favorable planets and pacify the planets causing adverse effects with Bhuta Yagya or Deva Yagya. So charities and chants are the best things to do to fix your chart. Nobody has a perfect chart. We all have some issues, so it's a good idea to do the remedies for the chart. Now, Sun, ruling this chart, is in the 3rd house of independence. He was a very independent man, is a very independent man, but Sun is in his debilitation sign. Yes, it gets some support because Venus is in its Mool Trikona sign of Libra, Shukra and Tula. But still, this Sun needs to be strengthened. So he was advised the ruby gemstone to strengthen the Sun. Mars in the chart is debilitated and badly placed in a Dustan Baba, the 12th house, so it becomes weak. And it rules the 9th house of long-distance journeys, as well as Dharma and Guru. And it's in the 12th house of foreign lands. So he needs to strengthen Mars with a red coral gemstone. Now Saturn rules the 7th house of relationships, partnerships, joint ventures, marriage, and comforts living abroad. And it's in the 12th house of Dustan Baba. And it's weak, less than 5 degrees. It's infant state. And Saturn is Ayush Karaka. So the weakness of Saturn can undermine the longevity of life. So he was advised to wear a blue sapphire gemstone. Jupiter is in very good strength, 23 degrees in the 2nd house. He spoke up as a guru. He had great knowledge. Jupiter rules the 5th house of education. He had good education. Jupiter also gives a very golden voice. And it rules the house of investments, so he can have some status through investments. When a planet is in a Multricone sign, it is codependent on the strength of its dispositor, its landlord, in this case, Bud or Mercury. Mercury is in very good condition in this chart. We do check the 1/9 divisional chart to see if planets have gone into their debilitation signs. In this case, Mercury is Vargotama in its own sign, in a sign of Scorpio here and a sign of Scorpio here. And Jupiter's exalted. But no debilitated planets in the Navamsa, which is helpful. He had very good spiritual and inner fortitude. Now Rahu and Ketu throw an aspect 5, 7, and 9 houses away. This Rahu is within 5 degrees of Venus, so it does cause some disturbance with Venus, ruling wife and ruling his own self-efforts. And that undermines the strength of Sun. It's outside the 5-degree orb of Sun, so it doesn't bother Sun directly. If planets are not within 5 degrees of another planet by conjunction or aspect, there is no adverse effects, or there's no impact either way, benefic or malefic. And Rahu and Ketu are both 5 degrees, more than 5 degrees from the moon, so they do not bother the moon. If Rahu and Ketu were around 14 degrees, they would be afflicting 6 of the 12 houses. This most effective point, the rising sign degree, has an orb of 5 degrees on either side, so it starts about 9 and goes up to 19. Rahu and Ketu are at 7, so they don't cause any disturbance. Moon, the most malefic planet for Leo, is also not on the rising sign degree and not within any orb of Rahu or Ketu. But we would say that Saturn and Mars have to be strengthened, and Sun has to be strengthened, and even Venus can be strengthened because of the Rahu influence on Venus. It's not 100% affliction. It's not 80. It's not 60. It's only a 40%, but it's still a 40% affliction on Venus. Gives him a strong desire for independence and self-initiatives and for relationships. But it also can cause some eclipse, some disturbance. So now let's take a look at the transits and we'll see what's going on. So he is still in his Shani Mahadasha. Saturn started in June 2008, so it runs until June 2027. It's a 19-year Mahadasha. Saturn's in the 12th house of foreign lands, so he frequently was visiting India. He would go there every year for a month or two, or a couple of months, a few months. It's also ashrams. He liked to visit ashrams and go on spiritual journeys. Now we only use the Mahadasha and the Antradasha. Antradasha is the operating planet, the current hands on the clock. So he was in Chandra moon from May 30th, 2019 until the end of December 2020. He's running his 19 months of moon subperiod. Now, some astrologers will go 3 levels deep, 4 levels deep, and 5 levels deep in the dashas, and they'll use several different dashas to read charts. And Professor Chowdhury used to say that those astrologers are on a ring road in Delhi, traveling in circles, never arriving anywhere. We only need to use the Vimshottara Dasha system, and we only need the Mahadasha and Antardasha, and to that we overlay the transits. And all significant events in life are connected with the transits. So we see he's in the moon. This is the most malefic planet for Leo, is the moon. It's sitting here 22 degrees. It aspects 7 houses away. Look at the transit sun. Today, sun's at 22 degrees. It's under the 100% affliction of this most malefic planet. And this started a few days ago. It was within the 5-degree orb, and it goes for another 5 days. Then once it finishes, and as it goes over Rahu, under the aspect of Ketu, it will then enter this house in the middle of July for 1 month. And this is end of life. Losses, expenses, separation. It can be foreign lands and ashrams, yes. But in this situation, it does not look like its ideal situation. We also see that Mars, ruling the 9th house of long-distance journeys, is debilitated again here in the transit chart and badly placed in the 12th house of Dushtambhava. So 2 strikes against Mars, ruling long-distance journeys. Mercury, ruling continuation of family life, is in the 12th house of losses, expenses, and separations. And one of the most significant issues is that Saturn is currently at 23 degrees, conjunct Ketu at 23 degrees, under the aspect of Rahu at 23 degrees. This affliction is not ideal for the entire world, and this started the first week of April, and it runs until late October. This is a 7-month, very slow-moving, very rare, and very difficult transit for the entire world. So it's not good for immigrants, the poor and the needy, the elderly, agriculture, manufacturing, farming, industrial activities, the masses, things of the earth, including global warming. And we've had a lot of earth-related problems such as tornadoes, earthquakes, volcanoes, fires, floods, tsunamis, cyclones. These are all happening during this 7-month period. Very difficult time. And for this man, Saturn rules the 7th house. And one of the indications of the 7th house is comforts living abroad. So this causes an eclipse while traveling abroad or living abroad. So I just don't see how this is a positive thing for him. I think it's very difficult for him. It may be that once Sun gets past Rahu, another 4 or 5 days, he could resurface, but I'm not optimistic. There's just too much going on. He's in the most malefic planet for 19 months. It started just a little more than a month ago. And that transit moon, ruling the 12th house of losses and end of life, is afflicting the transit of the natal sun. Now this is short-lived. It's a 10-day period altogether from the beginning to the end. But this is right now 100% affliction. So of course my heart and prayers go out to this man. I hope that he does resurface. But I think the chart shows that it's very, very difficult. We also see that transit Venus is in a house that is under the affliction of Actually, the moon does not afflict this house. I take that back. It's at 22 degrees, so it does not afflict the house. And Venus is pulling away from this Rahu, so that's not so bad. But here's Sun. Tomorrow will be right on top of this Rahu, so that's not good for this man. Mars will be debilitated for another couple of weeks as well, so that's not good either. Jupiter here at 22 degrees is in good condition. It throws an aspect 5, 7, and 9 houses away. But there's nothing within that 5-degree orb, so it can't really support anybody else. Let's hope this is the one planet that's strong enough to give him some luck and some divine grace.